All right, guys, so we have an action called set alert that's going to dispatch the type of set alert to the reducer, and it's going to add the alert to the state, okay, which initially is just an empty array. Now, what I want to do first is I want to give you an example of calling this action. So a good place to do this is in the register. So the register component where we did this console log passwords do not match, we actually want to set an alert with that message. All right, so what we're going to do is connect this component to Redux. And the way that we do that is actually through something called connect that's available with the React Redux package. So let's go ahead and import connect from React-Redux. Now, whenever we use connect, we have to actually export it down below here. So we're going to do export connect and then open up some parentheses, and then the name of the component goes right after it in parentheses like that. Okay, now we want to bring that action in, that set alert. So we're going to bring that in as well. So let's say import set alert, and that's going to be from let's see, where is it? So we're inside what, auth, so we want a dot dot slash into actions, and then it's coming from the alert actions file. Now whenever you bring in an action, when you want to use it, you have to actually pass it in to connect. Now connect takes in two things. One is any state that you want to map. So if we want to get state from alert or profile or anything else, we would put that as a first parameter. I'm just going to put null because we don't need anything right now. The second is going to be an object with any actions you want to use. So in our case, set alert. Now what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to access props.setAlert. Okay, and the props come in up here through the top. So props. So we should be able to do props.setAlert. So I'm going to go right here where we're doing our console log and change this to props.setAlert. Passwords do not match. And what this should do is pass this in as a message to our actions. So we want to put an alert type as well, but then it will generate an ID and dispatch set alert with that message, alert type, and ID. So let's just put an alert type. Now the alert type, I'm going to put danger. Okay, and I'm going to show you why I'm doing that, because in our CSS, where is it, app.css, you can see that we have a base class of alert. This works just like Bootstrap. So alert, and then we have different classes like alert primary, alert light, alert dark, and alert danger. And what I want to do is when we create our alert component, just have this be dynamic. So it can be danger, success, whatever, and that will change the background color. All right, so I'm going to add danger as the alert type. So if I save this, and I go back to Chrome to the register page, and if we look in our Redux tools under state, you'll see alert. We have our initial state of just an empty array. Now if I try to submit this with passwords that don't match and I register, notice that an action gets called. See right here, set alert. So this was dispatched from our actions file, and then down here in the state we now have an array item. We have an object that has a message of passwords do not match, an alert type of danger, and an ID that was generated by UUID. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If I do it again, it'll get added as another object. Okay, so far so good. Now we're going to want to display these obviously in our UI, because just a normal person using our application isn't going to have Redux tools open. So the way that we can do that is by creating an alert component. All right, so I'm going to go into components, into layout. That's where I'm going to create this, and create a file called alert.js. All right, and actually one thing I want to do is in register, we're going to be doing this throughout the course, instead of having props and using props.setAlert, I'm just going to destructure it up here. So we'll have some curly braces and we'll just pull out setAlert like that, and then we don't need to do props.setAlert. All right, we'll be doing that throughout the course instead of using props. All right, so let's go back to our component here, to our alert component. And let's see, we're going to generate, we're going to do RACF, and I'm going to put a P in here because we're using prop types. Okay, anytime you use a prop, in fact, we should add that to our register before I forget, because I always forget prop types. So we want to bring in prop types. We can actually do IMPT, so that will import prop types. And then down here at the bottom, we'll go ahead and say the name of the component, and then dot prop types, so lowercase p prop types, and set that to an object. And we're going to have the setAlert as a prop type. Now we can use the ES7 React Redux snippets extension and just do PT for prop type, and then whatever the type it is, the data type, which in this case is a function, setAlert is a function, so I'm going to do F, and I want it to be is required, so I'm going to do R and then enter. Okay, so we get prop types.func is required, and we'll go ahead and save that. All right, and then we'll go back to our alert component, and we're going to need connect here as well. So let's bring that in. We'll say import connect. So basically, anytime you want to interact a component with Redux, whether you're calling an action or getting the state, you want to use connect. So React dash Redux. All right, and just like we did before, we want to export default connect and then the component name. Okay, now in this case, we actually want to get the alert state. What we saw in the Redux DevTools, that array, we want to fetch that into this component. So we're going to create a variable here called map state to props, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're mapping the state Redux state to a prop in this component so that we have access to it. In this case, it's going to be the array of alerts. So I'm going to use an arrow function. This takes in state as a parameter, and then we want to set this to some parentheses with curly braces, and then whatever state we want, okay, or whatever prop we want to call it, which is I'm going to call alerts, and then we can use state dot and then whatever we want from the root reducer. If we look at our root reducer, which is index, we have alert. That's the only reducer we have. So to get the state inside of alert, we want to just say state.alert. Okay, so now we'll have props.alerts available to us. Now, instead of using props.alerts, I'm just going to destructure it. So up here, let's just get rid of props and put in our curly braces and just say alerts. That way we have access to it like that. So down here in prop types, alerts is now going to be a prop, so we need to add that here, and we'll do PT. It's an array, so A and then R. Okay, and now we just want to kind of map through the alerts and output whatever the message is along with the class for styling. But in addition to that, I want to make sure that it's not null. I also want to make sure that there's actually something in the array. I don't want to output anything if the array is 0. So since we're only using one expression, we can get rid of all this whole curly braces, and just simply do alerts. Let's say if alerts is not equal to null, double ampersand alerts is alerts.length, because remember it's an array. We're going to say if it's greater than 0, and then we can do our map. So alerts.map. I'm just going to save to format this a little. So map will just basically loop through. It's kind of like a for each, except it returns something. In our case, we're going to return some JSX for each alert. So we want to do alert arrow function, and then in here we'll do our JSX, which will be a div, And inside the div, we want the alert message. So we'll say alert.msg. Now for this div, we're going to need to add a key. Okay, whenever you map through an array like this in output JSX, it's a list, and you need to have a unique key. So our key is going to be the alert ID. All right, and then to style it, remember I showed you what we have in the CSS. We actually want to set this to curly braces with some backticks, and inside here we want the alert class and then the alert dash, and then this is going to be dynamic. So we're going to use a template string variable here, and we're going to say alert dot and then whatever the alert type, which remember in register we set it as danger, so this should show up as alert dash danger, which has the styling attached to it. So hopefully that makes sense. I know that's kind of a lot, so let's save that, and then we need to embed this into app.js. So let's bring it in. So component /layout /alert, and say alert. Now where we want to put this is within the container, but above the switch. The switch can only have routes in it, so we can't put it in there. So we're just going to embed it right here, like that. Okay, so let's check the terminal here, make sure there's no... Okay, so map state to props, I don't think we actually added that to connect. So let's go to our alert component. We created map state to props, but we're not doing anything with it. So remember, connect takes in that map state to props. All right, so we'll save that. Now, if we had any actions to call, that would go second, just like we did in the register. If you look in the register connect, we didn't have any map state to props, we just had an action. Okay, so let's try it out. We'll go back here and let's do a failed match password and see what happens. There we go. Passwords do not match. So hopefully this makes sense. What's going on, I'm just going to kind of reiterate this in case you didn't follow everything. So in our register, we brought in connect so that we could work with Redux. We also brought in the set alert action. All right, now down here we have to export connect with, we have to add that set alert action in order to use it, and then it's available within props. So we destructured it here, pulled it out of the props, we called it when the passwords don't match, and we sent the message and the alert type. Now set alert, if we go to the actions file, that's what's being called. We sent the message and the alert type, we generated an ID, we dispatched set alert with the message alert type and ID, and if we go to the reducer, we added that to the array, and we saw that within Redux DevTools. Now the alert component that we just created is getting that state. We're mapping state to props, getting the alert state, putting it inside a prop of alerts, okay, destructuring it up here, passing in alerts, making sure it's not null and then it has something in it. And if it does, we're going to map through them and we're going to output a div with the message and the styling based on the alert type. Hopefully that is a decent explanation. Now, if I keep doing this, we're going to keep getting that error. So now we have to think about, well, how do we get rid of these? Because all we've done is set the alert. We do have a remove alert type and action in our reducer, but we need to trigger that somehow. Now there's different ways we could do this. We could create an X button here. What I'm going to do is do a set timeout and just wait a certain amount of seconds and then clear the alert or remove the alert. All right, so we're going to go back to our actions file, and we're just going to, like I said, after a certain amount of time, we'll go ahead and dispatch remove alert so that that will go away. Let me see. So we're going to go under the dispatch and let's do set timeout, which is just a JavaScript function. It'll just do something after a certain amount of time. It takes in a function. So I'm going to put an arrow function, and then we're going to call dispatch, and we're going to dispatch an object with a type. and the type is going to be this time remove alert, and the payload is just going to be the ID. Okay, we only need to send the ID. Now the second parameter to set timeout, so we have the function, and then the second parameter is the time we want to wait. So I'm going to do 5,000, which is 5 seconds. All right, and then so after 5 seconds, it's going to dispatch remove alert with an ID as a payload, and if we look in the reducer, it's going to just filter out that payload. Okay, it's going to match that ID, or it's saying as long as the ID doesn't match the payload, then return it. Okay, so it'll return everything but that. So let's make sure we save this action file here, and let's try it. So we'll go back and screw the password up here, the match, and register. So after 5 seconds, remove alert. I just pointed to the screen to try to get you guys to see this. But now you can see that there's a remove alert right here. Okay, because it was dispatched 5 seconds after we set the alert. So now, if for some reason, you know, we keep clicking this, after a few seconds, each one goes away. All right, so I know that the whole logic of this interacting between actions and reducers, and I know that's complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it's really valuable, and you can really you know, make things very interactive. So it's pretty cool. All right, so I think that that's good. I think one more thing I'd like to do is have the option to, when we call set alert, like inside register, I want the option to pass in the time. Like if I wanted it to be 3 seconds, I want that option. Although we probably won't do it much, I still want to be able to do it. So in set alert, let's add timeout as a parameter, but we'll set a default of 5,000, and then we'll just replace 5,000 down here with timeout, like that. All right, so I know that was quite a bit, but now we have an entire alert system set up. So anywhere at all where we want to call the alert, we can simply call that action, and it doesn't have to be from a component. If we're in another action file, like let's say for profiles, we can simply bring that in and we can call set alert from here. So we can do it from absolutely anywhere. All right, so hopefully that made somewhat a bit of sense. As we move along, you know, you'll get more comfortable with reducers and actions and all that stuff. All right, so I will see you in the next video.